10, 2017 regular scheduled board meeting of the Columbus Municipal School District. We do have a quorum present on the line. We have Trustee Frederick Sparks calling in, so we all five are present at the meeting. Now, I ask Ms. Dr. Shoemake if she would to ask our invocation followed by the pledge.
Will y'all bow with me, please? Lord God, Almighty and everlasting Father, you have brought us safely into the closing hours of this day. Preserve us with your mighty power that we may not fall into sin nor be overcome by adversity. And in all we do, direct us to the fulfilling of your purpose. Lord, you are always more ready to hear than we are to pray, and to give more than we either deserve or desire. Mercifully receive the prayers of your servants who call upon you, and grant that we may know and understand what things we ought to do, and that we may also have the grace and power to faithfully accomplish those things. Pour upon us the abundance of your mercy, forgiving us of those things for which our conscience is afraid to admit, and giving us those good things we are not worthy to ask, except through the merits and mediation of Jesus Christ, our Savior, who lives and reigns with you in the Holy Spirit, one God, now and forever. Amen.
Amen.
Please rise with me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to thank everyone for being here tonight. I know before we consider adopting tonight's agenda, I think Dr. Hickman has a couple of additions that he's asking to add. Dr. Hickman?
Okay, one of them is a addition from MDE. If you can pass it out, and then also pass one out to, you did?
We already have it.
Okay. That was something that we just received today for the cover page. Would you like to explain? You need to use your microphone, please.
It's the IDEA Part B and preschool project application cover page. We need consideration to approve that so that we can process our special education application.
Okay. All right, and if it's okay with the board, I ask that we'll add that under the Office of Superintendent, number, let me get over here to it. Number 24. It's the last under D, number 24.
So it's Roman numeral 8, D 24.
That is correct. 8D, number 24.
And what is it going to be titled?
Consideration to approve IDEA Part B application or cover page, Ms. Lenore. How should it be stated?
Consideration to approve IDEA Part B and preschool project application cover page.
Okay. Is it okay with you, Mr. Dunn?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Secondly, Dr. Hickman, go ahead.
We also have a list of new hires that we want to amend the personnel.
And these will be under recommendations on the staff.
These will be on the recommendations, and at the time, Greg is finishing up making copies that the principals have submitted, and then we'll be able to pass them out when we come to that agenda part.
Could we have the number? What is that?
It's under section 8D, number 1, staff personnel matters, and then the recommendations is the top item, and I think it goes 1 through, let me just see here, 1 through 16, so the additions will be added from 17 through, do you know how many hires it is total?
Do you want to look at that folder, Pam?
But we're going to just go on the personnel agenda? Is it, yeah?
Yes, it's
Yes.
going, it's,
Yeah.
yes, it'll just be
Okay.
added after, under recommendations heading from number 17 to 18 to whatever, how many it is that he's asking to be added.
And just for the public and obviously for our board to make sure, you know, that we don't want to be in the habit of adding things to the board past our deadline, but this is a crucial time that our principals are still hiring for new employees and offering them contracts. And so we want to make sure that we're able to support them by having them accept a position. I wish they did accept the position, but the board accepted a contract so that they would not have to feel insecure and look elsewhere.
Right,
Right.
right.
You said
And
there's
so-
6?
Yes, Ms. Verdell.
No, I was just going to say, so the item number 1 under superintendent recommendations is the personnel items.
Yes, it's
So-
the staff person.
So
Yes.
the items that he has will be added to that particular document?
That's correct. Yes,
Okay, so
ma'am.
it doesn't have to be a separate, it's not going to be a separate item?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
All I was stating is that under recommendations, when you open that, the particular report, the first is recommendations, and it goes 1 through 16 currently, and I was just stating that whichever recommendations he asked, those names would start at number 17, 18 under that section.
Gotcha.
So. 1 through 16 is what is listed under recommendations for the report at this time, 1 through 16. And then the next heading section is resignations. So those hires will start at number 17 through ever how many there are.
There's 6 of them, so
Okay, there's 6 of them, so that would be 17 through 23.
23.
And those names will be, added to the agenda part, section. Okay. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Dr. Hickman, is that all the additions? Is that all the additions? Well, no, are they already in the 16 that are listed?
They're already uploaded as well.
Okay.
Be able to ask you, do we keep those?
Okay, so the 1 through 16 under recommendations, those include the employees you're asking to add. So we don't have any additions 17 through 23. Those 6 have already been added into the 16.
Yes, I apologize for the confusion.
Okay.
With the task that we do want to do is ask permission when we get to that level to identify the ones that we added that you guys didn't review, and to know if you want to keep them there or remove them.
Well, I mean, I think if the board, do y'all have any objections to just leaving them as it is? I mean, he's made the recommendations of
It's the
hiring.
It is the recommendation.
So, I mean, just leave it as it is. I mean, if you want to spotlight the names, that's fine, once we
Okay.
get to that point, but I don't, unless the board has an objection to it.
All right.
Okay?
Thank you, board. I apologize for that.
No problem. All right, so now, board, we have the item added, and the other information is already built into tonight's information. I need a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Has been moved by Ms. Verdell. Excuse me. Do I have a second? I'll make the second. Any discussion? And tonight, we're going to do voice votes, yeas and nays, just since we have Mr. Sparks on the line. So if you would, at the time, yay. If I don't hear a yay, then I'll ask for opposition. So all in favor, yay?
Yay.
Yay. Mr. Sparks?
Yay.
Okay, it is unanimous. Now we've adopted tonight's agenda. Board, we go to item number 4, which is school board minutes. We have under A, June the 7th, regular meetings, June the 12th, regular meetings, June 15th, special meeting, June 22nd, which is the public budget hearing meeting, special meeting, and then June the 27th, which is a special called meeting. Board, to approve the minutes, I ask we take them all as one. I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
Has been motioned by Mr. Sparks. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Dr. Shoemake. Any discussion about the minutes?
Yes.
Yes, Ms. Fisher.
Just for the record, on the minutes dated June 22 of this year, as well as June 27th, it's not noted of the absences, and I was not present at either of those meetings, and I would like for it to be noted. And I believe that Ms. Verdell was not present at one of those meetings.
At the 27th, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and I was not present at the 22nd or the 27th.
Okay. So, Mr. Dunn, we can still take it as one motion with the addition of the language?
Right, with the corrections that Ms. Fisher was absent at both the 22nd and 27th, and Ms. Verdell was absent at which meeting?
The 27th?
27th.
Yes.
So with those corrections, the minutes can be approved altogether.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Fisher. I need a motion for approval of the minutes.
We got the motion of Sparks and Schumate.
Yes, I'm sorry. All in favor, please signify with aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? It is unanimous. Now we move to trustee travel and discussion. I don't believe we have any travel at this particular time. Trustees, is there anything you want to report or comment on? No? Mr. Sparks, any travel or anything you want to comment on?
Yes, sir. I did go to Clinton for the school board's role in developing successful readers for the first 2,000 days, and I must say that it was very informative. We discussed the importance of reading to children, especially while they're still in the womb. We also discussed the benefits of having the districts having a mandated child development class, because what that does is start to head off the cycle of not having what we need as far as the children entering into the school systems and the poverty level being challenges for some students. We also erected some structures based on life situations, and we found that structures that had all positive experiences didn't necessarily mean that they were strong structures. But we did find that those that had a mixture of the positive as well as the negative experiences were the stronger, but not necessarily the tallest. So that being said, the facilitator was stressing, in life as a whole, it benefits us to learn how to react to negative situations and experiences. That helps us to grow as individuals. But I will say, all in all, it was very eye-opening, and I could see where a lot of the programs that we have in place in our district can be very beneficial to our children.
Thank you for sharing that. And tell me once again the name of the class, the first 2,000 days.
A school board's role in developing successful readers,
Okay.
the first 2,000 days.
All right. Thank you very much for that report. Board, is there any other questions or comments on the information? Okay. Thank you very much. Now we go to discussion and consideration of the Main Street Columbus mural at the Magnolia Bowl West Wall. I know this is an item that we discussed at one of our previous meetings, and I know that we also took up with some questions and comments and I guess, some suggestions all of us had to consider, and was submitted, I think, through Dr. Hickman, through his staff, back to the Main Street Board, and I believe we have some representatives here tonight that can come and speak to us and answer any questions we might have. And also, I believe there's a rendering of the mural as it has been modified based off of our recommendations for the wall itself. And so if you would, please come forward and identify yourself. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Sure. And if you would, also just speak in the mic so it can be recorded and Mr. Sparks can hear you as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Barbara Bigelow with Columbus Main Street's passing out revised renderings. I'm Penny Bowen. I'm the chair for the design committee, and also is Catherine Munson. She's the artist for the mural.
Thank you very much for being here tonight. And in looking at the mural, I know that the Live, Dine, Play, and Shop is a Main Street, not just Columbus, but Mississippi and maybe even across the country motto or
It's actually one of our focuses of a nationally for
Sure.
Main Street organizations. And our Main Street, Columbus, has been working for since 2014 on murals downtown. A mural project is a lot of fun. It draws a lot of interest downtown, which is what we're all about, bringing people to our downtown area. Penny Bowen, who is the chairman of our design committee of our board, has actually taken this project on, and Catherine is one of our artists. She's a fabulous local artist, and we're lucky to have her working with us. I think we submitted a rendering to you guys maybe a month or so ago. You made some suggestions, and we have made changes to the rendering. We actually, if you'll look at your right end, added the word learn. That really is not the focus of Main Street, but as we talked about it and discovered that that, of course, is the focus of our school district, and we're asking to use school district property, we added that to the rendition at the end. We also added what we consider to be Franklin Academy. You can see that on the end as well. If this is, of course, on the west wall we're talking about as you enter our downtown, and this is one of the main entrance points to our downtown Columbus. So we thought it would be great if we could work together and you would allow us to use the wall. We have artists who will draw this. We have folks who will paint it. We started our mural project, as I said, in 2014, and we took on the Coggins Alley to kind of revitalize that, if y'all are familiar with Coggins Alley. It was a pretty rundown area. People were afraid to walk through the area, so Penny and her team came together. Catherine as well worked on that. Cleaned up that area, painted a mural on the wall by Gavin Mitchell's office, and then painted the one that faces Fifth. Cleaned it up. We maintain that ourselves. That's a Main Street project. We keep it looking beautiful, and that Coggins Alley is used tremendously these days. People feel comfortable walking up and down. So if you've not looked at that, I invite you to do so, and you can see how we do maintain things that we take on responsibility for. This live, dine, shop, and play are the four elements of Main Streets, as we said, across the nation. We added learn. We added to the right end, welcome to our downtown, because that's what we're wanting to do for people. As they drive in from the north, we want to invite them to come down, shop, play, enjoy our downtown, enjoy the beauty of our historic downtown, and along the way, just enjoy our community. So I hope that y'all will approve this evening this rendering to be painted on that. We will use a paint that is outdoor friendly, actually house paint, same as we did on Coggin Alley, which has been recommended to us by professionals. And we're ready to answer any questions you might have. You can see we moved to the right end with the word learn. We actually moved the W's clock tower down there as well to keep all the learning at the far end of it. And as you would drive through this, the last thing you would see would be learn, and of course then you would see Franklin Academy. Absolutely. So any questions, we'd be glad to answer them. Have I left anything out? Oh, Penny's got a larger one. Should be glad for y'all to, this is all I could do on my computer, on my printer at Main Street, but I thought it might help you. She's got a larger rendering.
If anybody need to see any more detail in there, I'd be happy to bring it up.
I'll see.
We do appreciate the comments that were made previously. It helped us to improve our mural. You know, we're all about working with people in our community. It's one of the things that we think we do the best at Main Street, and we want to continue that. So we hope y'all can approve this evening, because we are definitely ready to move forward.
Thank you very much. Board, do you have any questions in looking at, and I applaud you in going back and looking at some of the comments and everything that were made. I think was very well received, and certainly I think taking action in the respect of including the learn aspect of it, I think really pulls everything together within the community, as we all know. Now, board members, do you have any other questions regarding the mural or anything for the representatives that are here tonight before us?
This is a little bit off topic, but I would like to recognize that Catherine is the one, if you've been in any of the cafeterias for the grade schools, she was behind painting those and making them look really neat. So if you haven't been to the grade schools, the cafeterias look superb.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. Board? Yes.
I don't have a question. I just want to say thank you for making the rendering more inclusive. I think that it will be well received throughout the community, and so I think the changes were spot on. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
That would be Catherine and Penny.
Well, thank you, Board. If there's no more questions, I need a motion for approval of the mural to be painted on the west wall.
So moved.
Has been motioned by Dr. Shoemake. Do I have a second? I'll make the second. Any discussion? All in favor? Yes, Ms. Fisher.
I'd also like to thank you all for the consideration that was given to our request in the comments. While I appreciate that this is a standard to live, dine, play, shop, and I do appreciate you including learn in that, I just still don't see this as being reflective of what we want Columbus to be. I know that we're going to have a thriving downtown. We don't have that now. I know we're going to. And I agree that that wall, having a mural behind it, would lend to a welcoming atmosphere. But I still don't relate, and I don't see how most of the community can relate to the graphics still behind this. Call it what you will, but I think there are still some subtleties that can be perceived as negative. And until that changes, I cannot support this as much as I want to see that wall being used.
Thank
Do you
Ms.
mind pointing
Fisher.
those out? Because I don't know what they are.
Well, at this time, if you don't mind, we have a motion and we also have a second on the floor. All in favor, please signify with a yay. Yay. Mr. Sparks, how do you vote?
Well, I was listening to Ms. Fisher there and trying to get an understanding of what it is that's going on with it. But from what I'm looking at, you guys have been in and out. I can barely hear you guys speaking in the mics. But what I can see here that's missing to me is I don't see, unless I'm overlooking, I don't see anything signifying the Air Force Base.
We
Which is
took
also
the
part of the
plane,
community.
I'm sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, we did remove the plane. We made some other changes, and we thought there was a little concern about the plane. It wasn't really meant to indicate any particular area of our community, and we just took it out to rearrange things and make them look a little more presentable after we made the other changes that we made.
Okay. So it was purposely left out then. Okay.
Yes, sir, it sure was.
Okay.
Mr. Sparks.
Now, if you would, Mr. Spears,
Yes, sir.
if you would, can you give me a synopsis of what Ms. Fisher was stating? Because I could barely hear her. She was going in and out.
Sure.
Mr. Spears, I don't think it's appropriate to have discussion when you're in the middle of a vote.
Okay.
I would say you've called for the vote, and
Well, we have, and I apologize for that, Mr. Sparks, but this time we've got the vote. At this time, I think Dr. Shoemake, myself, and Ms. Friedel have voted yay, and I didn't hear your vote, and I apologize.
Mr. Spears and Mr. Dunn, is there a way that I can recant that to be able to hear what Mrs. Fisher's concern is?
I think when you're in the middle of a vote,
Right.
you're either going to have to vote it up or
Or
you're going to
down.
vote it down. And there has been a vote now, and Mr. Spears has called for Mr. Sparks's vote, and there can't be discussion in the middle of the vote.
You're right.
So
Okay, I apologize then. And I just wanted to know what Mrs. Fisher's position was on it. But from what I'm looking at here, I have no problem with what I'm looking at. And I can go with yay on this.
Okay. We have 4 yays. Do I have any nays?
Nay.
There's 1 nay. Please let the record reflect Dr. Shoemake, Mr. Spears, Mr. Sparks, and Ms. Friedel in favor of it. 1 opposition, that would be Ms. Fisher. The motion does carry. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you. We sure appreciate your time.
No, we're going to the next. Now we move to our next item on the agenda, which is B number 2, which is an update for the August 19, 2017 board retreat details. Just a couple of things you'd asked me to bring back to you, board. One is I did speak with Mamie. She is the individual who spoke to, I think it was Ms. Verdell, last year. And so with that, she's going to come back, and we're going to go back through the report card as we did last year. So we're going to have to work to kind of go back and make certain that we were able to calibrate things to the report card through the state. Secondly was, I think the board, as Dr. Shoemake had attended the new board member training, she will also bring and go through that for the rest of the board at that particular meeting. And then she asked if we could, any questions that we have that she, or any other items that we may want to build into that presentation or discussion, that if we could get those together and so I can submit them to her by this Friday, then we can make sure we have all the material and all the information to talk with her about. So, board, that is kind of the update as to where we stand now, and I just ask if you would to email me any additional items you wish to have discussed at our board retreat. Now, next item we come to is the consent agenda. The consent agenda is our policy reviews, which are A, consideration to approve revised policies and new policy. Dates to remember. The dates to remember, we have our CMSD convocation. Educators are essential at Cook Elementary from 8:30 to 10 a.m. on August the 2nd, and the teacher's first day back is August the 2nd. Students come back August the 7th. Then we go through our athletic schedules that are sitting there. One item on the consent agenda we need to look at is board meeting. We have the July 28th meeting scheduled for 6 p.m. It's on a Friday. And in talking to Dr. Hickman, he would ask that we would reconsider and put that as an 8:30 a.m. meeting instead of 6 p.m. on Friday. So board, is that okay, or the will of the board to change that to an 8:30 meeting, or do we want to do it at 6 p.m.?
Is that July the 28th?
July the 28th. It's listed under number 3 under board meetings.
I may not be able to make it, but that's okay. You guys can move forward.
Okay, and if my understanding, I believe we'll be taking up mostly hires and also possibly the budget and other things that Dr. Hickman's working to assemble now. So I'll wait to hear what it is, and I'll be sure to communicate that to the board. So, so I ask that this item be amended to 8:30 a.m. on July the 28th in the approval of this consent. Is that everyone's understanding? Mr. Sparks, is that your understanding as well?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And then we have our other review meeting on 11:30 a.m. on August the 9th here at Brandon, and then the 14th will be our regular meeting here at Brandon. And then we have the rest of the consent agenda, which are student transfers, bus turnarounds, donation from the Mississippi School Math and Science, donation from the City of Columbus to the CHS Beta Club, and then Lost Pizza Company to Columbus Success Academy, broadcast contract for broadcasting district football games on 91.1, and extracurricular activity schedule. So, board, I need a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Has been motioned by Ms. Verdell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Has been seconded
Second.
by Dr. Shoemake. Any discussion about the consent agenda? Being no discussion, all in favor, please say yay. Yay.
Yay.
Yay.
Mr. Sparks?
Yay.
It is unanimous.
Yay.
Now we go to our next item, which is item number 6, open forum. We have a Miss Jessica Jeremiah signed up to speak to the board. Yes, come forward.
Ms. Jeremiah, you look different.
I'm Miss Jeremiah, but I'm stepping in for. My name is J.R. Whaley, and I'm one of the owners of Pediatrust Columbus. And we wanted to come and introduce ourselves and tell you about some of the services that we provide at our clinic, which just opened 10 days ago, right down the street on Hospital Drive. We provide skilled nursing care for medically fragile children during the day. It allows the kids to get the skilled nursing care that they need during the day, including occupational therapy, speech therapy, physical therapy during the day. Allows the parents then to go back to work and go to school and otherwise kind of get back and not not have those obligations during the day where the kids are getting skilled nursing care during the day. Ms. Jeremiah is not here today, but with me is Trish Knight, who is our administrator, and she is a 29-year nurse with neonatal intensive care unit experience. She was the director of Women and Children's Services at Gilmore Memorial for many years. And likewise, we have RNs and other skilled staff on staff right down the road. So first of all, we just wanted to introduce ourselves and let y'all know who we are and that we're open. Secondly, invite y'all please to stop by and see the clinic. We're very pleased and proud of how the clinic turned out. The physical facility is very nice, as well as the decorations and things of that nature that we're very proud of. So please stop by and take a tour. Secondly, we wanted to also, in the course of introducing ourselves, begin a conversation about how we can work together for medically fragile children in the district. Two ideas that we might be able to explore together are any homebound children that you have in the district that are seeing a teacher come to their home could certainly be welcomed at the clinic. We have educational labs. We have facilities to accommodate just that, and we actually have an educator on staff to provide that, although we certainly welcome your district teachers to do the same. Secondly, if there are children in the district who are in school but need some type of therapy during the day, we transport kids. We have a bus that we have a driver who is a CNA as well as another attendant on the bus, and we could certainly pick children up at school and bring them to the clinic for therapies, again, whether that be physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy. So those are the kind of services that we provide. We wanted to inform the board of it and invite y'all, and then also begin a conversation about how we can work together for kids who need skilled nursing care and medically fragile children throughout the day. Happy to answer any questions. I also have some brochures with some information that I'd like to share with y'all.
Yes, if you would. Thank you. Board, while he's passing these out, is there any questions regarding the presentation or the information provided to us regarding the services? Or Dr. Hickman, do you have any comments or questions that you'd like to share? Okay. We'll let him get up there. Thank you. Yes, Ms. Fisher, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Whaley. I took the opportunity to go on the website and look at the site for PediaTrust, and I'm very pleased, very excited. I think you have a community who's in terrible need of the kind of professional services you offer, and I think any parent who has a special needs child or medically fragile child would be very appreciative that you're there. I do want to take the opportunity to come and look at your site, your facility. And just the one question, how large is it? How many children can it accommodate? And are there any specialties that are set aside, different rooms for different needs?
Thank you for those comments, Ms. Fisher. One of the parents I met today came up to me and said, "I just want to thank you for opening the clinic. It's been an answer to prayers." And we really do feel that, and we've been very overwhelmed and very pleased with the reception that we've gotten from folks all over the Golden Triangle. I know y'all are known as a friendly place, and that has proved to be true, but we really do appreciate the openness that we've been accepted. To answer your specific questions, we're licensed for 40 children. We could expand that because of the size of the clinic. The clinic is a little bit less than 7,000 square feet. And so we can expand that if the need arises we can ask for an extension of that because we have the space. But currently, we're licensed to care for up to 40 children. Just so you'll know, Ms. Fisher, there's a ratio. And so as we grow, as we take in new kids, our staff grows as well. We have about a 3-to-1 ratio of kids to caregivers, and so we're growing as we're ramping up just within the last 10 days. Your last question, yes, we do. We have very specific areas that are required by the regulations, and then also things that we wanted to do. We have a great indoor play area that's full of sunlight and murals. I enjoyed the conversation about the murals because we had our own muralist do some paintings on walls. We have a great sunlit inside play area. We have a great outside play area. And then we have specific rooms. We have a therapy room. We're contracted with Kids Therapy Spot that comes in and provides physical, occupational, speech therapy. They have a segregated area to provide therapy. Also, we have different quiet rooms based on different ages. And so, and then in addition to that, we have an educational learning lab. We have other activity learning labs. And so we really would love for you to come, drop in, or give us a call, and we'd love to show you around as well as all the other board members.
Thank you.
I was going to say, if you would, just make sure you speak in the mic so Mr. Sparks can also hear you. Thank you. And that's really great. And Dr. Hickman?
I did. I wanted to know the structure, the financial structure, meaning are we billed as a school district? Do you guys incur the billing? Do the parents, the families incur the billing? Do we refer families to you, or as a school district, are we contracted with you? Help me understand that, that aspect of it.
Sure. It's a Medicaid program, and so the children under the waivers would be eligible for this program due to their medical condition. There are certain requirements. For example, a child that may be a Down's syndrome or autistic, that alone would not qualify the child for our services. There has to be a need for some type of skilled nursing care during the day. And that may take the form of feeding tubes or trachs or seizure disorders or other things of that nature that require that skilled nursing care. To answer your other financial question, the way that it works outside of the schools, we take referrals from pediatricians, from other healthcare providers, hospitals, things of that nature, social workers who know that these families need some help, need some assistance caring for their kids with special medical needs, and we bill the managed care organizations for that, or Medicaid offices. Likewise, the physical therapists that we're contracted with will bill directly and not through us. So it could be a situation where, you know, these children perhaps get the education in the mornings at your schools, but then are transported, and again, we have buses, could be transported to the clinics to provide, to be provided the therapies that they would need.
And who was financially liable for that service after school?
If assuming that the children qualify for the program, then we would, and that billing would just.
And if they do not?
Well, if they do not, then we are stopped from taking the kids.
Okay.
So they would have to qualify for the program.
And so during the daytime, if you needed to provide service, help me understand, do you guys come to the school and provide service for a youngster? So that youngster is at school during the day. They rode the bus to come to school. There's a certain period of time where they may be transported to your facility. So during that time period, are the schools contracting with you for those services, or are you billing again Medicaid?
No, the school wouldn't be contracted with us. We would be billing the Medicaid program for the services provided during the time that those kids are in our clinics. And so the therapy would occur in the Pediatrust clinic on Hospital Drive.
And just one thing, and I would assume, Mr. Dunn, that would require a resolution or some type of busing understanding if it ever got to that point for transporting students.
I think that Mr. Whaley has said that he would, their agency provides this,
Yes.
all the
Yes.
transportation, so
Okay.
we
So, I
would
mean,
not
we
be-
would not, as a board, have to make any approvals of anything? Okay.
No, sir.
All right. So, Dr. Hickman, if, thank you very much for presenting this to us tonight. And if
Yes.
you want to speak with Dr. Hickman further about how the school district and your organization would be able to work together, and then, of course, Dr. Hickman, I mean, as far as giving permission, I don't think we have to give any
There's no permission.
action.
They
I
can
mean,
work
you
together
you can
freely.
just work together from there.
Okay.
And thank you very much for presenting, and I'll definitely read through and may do as Ms. Fisher and try to follow up to
Yeah, please,
see the clinic.
please do. We would love for y'all to see it.
Okay. Board, is there any additional questions for Mr. Whaley? Being none, thank you very much. Now, Board, we move to item number 7, which is Office of Business Management, which is our first A, consideration and discussion to approve the adoption of the resolution to authorize issuance of GEO bond refunding options and the preliminary official statement and related documents. I know we have our bond counsel here, Mr. Young, as well as Mr. Pierce Moore to come and present. So if you would, gentlemen, please come to the mic, and I'll just remind you, if you would, to speak into the mic so it can be captured on audio, and Mr. Sparks will be able to hear you.
Well, it's nice to be with you again today. Just to, I guess, kind of quickly recap how we got here and where we are and where we need to go from here. The board had previously retained Mr. Moore's firm, Stevens, to serve as underwriter on the possible refinancing of the district's Series 2008 and 2009 bonds. It retained Mr. Dunn's firm as issuers counsel, Young Law as bond counsel, and Muni Group as financial advisor. I can tell you that over the last, since that occurred, I guess 2 or 3 weeks ago, we've had significant conversations and a lot of work with Ms. Holmes, Dr. Hickman, the administration, on looking at possibilities for refinancing the district's debt, and looking at ways of, while we're refinancing, are there ways that we could restructure the issue as well to make it as beneficial as possible to you. The last time I was here, I told you that the way I view these things is it's nice to have the interest rate savings, but it's also even better if, along with the savings, we can come up with another benefit or help the district in some other way. And I think we have accomplished that. But before we get into the numbers, the resolutions that you had previously adopted retaining all the professionals said that we were to do our homework, come up with an idea with the structure, with the proposal to bring back to the board at a later date. That's what you have in front of you tonight. Assuming that you approve this tonight, what it does is it allows us then to proceed to the next step, which would be making sure all of our documents are the way that we want them, applying for a bond rating, updating the district's bond rating, and at the appropriate time, which I think would be in 2 or 3 weeks, we would be ready for Stevens to actually price the bonds. And tonight's resolution, among other things, authorizes the superintendent, if the interest rates from the Stevens pricing, if those are acceptable, and gives us at least the 2% savings, but also I would want something in line with what we're talking about tonight, more than just the 2% savings. But assuming that that goal is met, then tonight's resolution authorizes the superintendent to sign a bond purchase agreement locking in those rates. So tonight what you're doing is, by adopting this resolution, in essence saying, yes, we want to proceed to the next step, which would be preparing to price the bonds, and the superintendent is authorized to sign the bond purchase agreement, locking in the rates, assuming the rates come in where we expect. Once we price, then it would be about 3 weeks to get from there to the closing. So that's where we are and where we're trying to go. I had included in your board packet, and then this evening I handed out another copy of the little 2-page summary of the bond resolution.
Board, just to so you'll see which item it is, if you would. Thank you.
And
Separate sheet.
what I tried to do, this one resolution encapsulates a lot of things, both in the resolution, and then it approves the forms of some documents that are attached to it. And so what I've learned over the years is it's very helpful, and board members frequently appreciate getting this short summary just to kind of hit the highlights of what we're trying to do. I won't read it back to you. I will mention that the bonds that we're refunding have changed slightly since the previous version of this that was in your packet, but that's the very first paragraph on this sheet. I think the rest of it is substantially the same as what you've already seen. The resolution authorizes the bonds in the approximate amount of $8.5 million, although we anticipate it's going to be closer to 8.2 to 8.3 million, somewhere in that range. You see the estimated savings that are listed on the summary. On the back page, the second page, I think it just bears a little bit of just mention that it's important to remember that we're refinancing not all of the outstanding 2008 or all of the outstanding 2009s. We're refinancing the part that can be called. And when you sell bonds, the investors typically want some period of time when you cannot pay the bond out from under them. They want some security of knowing they have that bond for some time. And if you look under paragraph C on page 2, you see that the 2008 bonds can be paid off May of 2018, and the 2009 bonds can be paid off, the callable portion can be paid off in 2019. So what will happen is, on the day that we close, most of the bond proceeds will go into an escrow fund held by a bank that will hold those funds and invest those funds. And until we get to these two call dates, the escrow fund will make the payments, the interest payments on the refunded bonds. And then on these call dates, there will be just enough in that escrow fund to pay off the outstanding balance of the fund. And that's what I tried to describe there in paragraph C. The preliminary official statement is one of the documents that's approved by this resolution. You have that in your packet. There's still just a few blanks in there to be completed. We're waiting on some information, particularly from the county, but we expect to have that in the next couple of days. The resolution authorizes the board president and superintendent to, once we fill in those blanks, to deem the preliminary official statement as final for SEC purposes. While that's happening, we'll start the rating process with Moody's, and then, like I say, hopefully in about 2 to 3 weeks, we'll be ready to price the bonds with the estimated closing in late August. If there are any questions, at this point, I'll be happy to answer them. If not, I'll turn it over to Mr. Moore to talk about the numbers just a little bit.
Okay, board, do you have any questions for Mr. Young in the statement summary sheet, or any other questions that you would like to ask him at this point? Mr. Sparks, do you have any questions for Mr. Young?
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Mr. Moore.
Mr. Spears, members of the board, it's good to be back before you again today. Might be easiest just to walk through just page by page, and maybe I can give an update on where rates are and maybe talk through the numbers. Yeah, that one right there.
And if you would, board, it's the brochure that was provided to us.
On page 1, I gave an update on interest rates. Essentially, this is what's called the bond buyer, general obligation bond buyer index. It's an average of 20 general obligation bonds with a 20-year term. It just kind of is, in the industry, it's how we measure how interest rates are moving. As you can see, since our last meeting, interest rates have kind of ticked up. This was actually done on Thursday. They've ticked up a couple of points since then, so from 3.53 to about 3.62. So as interest rates move up or down, you know, that will kind of mess with the savings either in a positive or negative way. So I just wanted to give you guys just some color on that, just what to expect over the next few weeks. Page 2, the sources and uses. As Mr. Jim Young said, we're doing a partial advance refunding of the 08 and 09s in the par amount of $8,220,000, keeping the issue amount under $10 million to retain what's called a bank qualified status. Bank qualified is for smaller issuers who issue less than $10 million in debt a year and allows the issuer to offer debt at a lower rate, thereby increasing savings. We arrived at these figures due to 2 outstanding loans this year, $340,000 for Apple computers and $900,000 for the master lease. On the next page, page 2, we've got the total refunded debt service of the 2009 issue. Essentially, if you look, we are calling the 2022 to the 2024 maturities. We're not calling the 18 to the 21s. Not a ton of savings there, and it will help keep the issue amount under that $10 million threshold. Currently, you guys are paying a 3.35% rate on this outstanding issue, the 2009. On the 2008s, very similar structure. We're calling the 21s to the 23s. We're trying to keep it below that BQ threshold, and currently you're paying a rate of 3.38%. On the next page, page 4, this is the combined debt service schedule. This is what you will be paying on the refunded bonds. This does not include the bonds that have not been called. Essentially, you will be paying an interest rate of 2.11%. Let's see. And on the next page, it is a combined summary of the old debt service versus the new, and we are looking at an estimated savings of around $350,000. And keep in mind that is subject to interest rates and however the market moves. And if you have any questions, I'm here to answer anything you might have.
Okay, board. One question just to clarify, and I believe it is stated that the $350,000, while I understand it does move around, is about 4% savings.
Yes, correct.
Which
Yeah,
is about twice what the state states that you should try to net out, and that is net savings.
That's right.
Yes, I just want to clear that for everyone and everything.
That's right.
Board, is there any other questions looking at the information here?
Yeah, so the $350,000 savings is a one-time savings, it's not annually, is that correct?
It's a one-time savings, yes, ma'am.
So it's $350,000.
Well, it's spread out over the life of the bonds.
Okay.
And you can see that on page 5.
So it roughly breaks down about $50,000 a year
Got it.
in savings.
Okay, so then the real benefit, the overall real benefit is the deferment of what we would have paid had we not refinanced the bond. Is that really? I mean, otherwise it's $50,000, $50,000 a year,
Right.
but it's the deferment that's really benefiting the district.
Well, it's not necessarily deferment as much as it is about restructuring the overall payment schedule that is also beneficial. And then, of course, saving the interest to where taxpayers aren't paying the extra $350,000 is also a big windfall.
And so, Mr. Young, the last time you were here, we talked about the repayment structure, maybe trying to level it off a little bit. So,
And that's what we have done. And I agree with Mr. Spears. I wouldn't so much call it a deferment of what we're paying, but it has smoothed out. There was already going to be an increase in the mills over the next 7 years. And what this has done is smoothed out that increase. It's lowered the overall increase in mills and smoothed it out so that it won't be, the jump up won't be as dramatic as it would have been. And just looking at the overall mills that are being levied or will or should be levied for the overall debt service, that would range from, depending on the value of a mill, and this is going to change, and as the value of the property in the district goes up, the value of a mill goes up, and so you know, hopefully 3-5 years from now, value of mill will be much greater and these numbers will be lower. But for both the notes and the bonds, for all overall debt, we're estimating that the mills would range from 11.7 to on the high side 13.8, but most of it in the 11 to 12 mil range. That alone is going to help you tremendously just in managing both your debt, but that also has an impact on the operating side as well.
And I think the last time we talked, there was a question about being able to levy for the amount that's being deferred. And I think somebody was going to check to see if we're able to levy for that, even though we're not having to pay for that in the current year, in that current year. And I don't...
Well, and if I could, you know, one of the things that we have looked at is that we will be fully funding the debt, and we're reducing on the operations side because the mill did increase, and we're still with surplus dollars that came in, or with Ms. Holmes is truing up the base, plus some other dollars that we have here. There would not be an additional need for Dr. Hickman to cut his budget any further to make everything balanced. So we are going into this school year with a fully funded debt levy and operational levy that's needed for running the district without additional cuts to Dr. Hickman's budget. So that's what this solution provides, is us being able to fully fund the debt and fund operations without making a major impact to fund balance or anything else to, you know, fund Dr. Hickman's operations, and being able, and that's obviously just because of the natural progression we've seen in growth in the mills over the past couple of years as well. So, so you know, that I don't know if that, does that answer your question?
I think so. And the only last question that I have is I don't see where the actual fees are accounted for. I know it's showing that there's a cost savings of $350,000 after the issuance of the refunding, but I would like to understand what is it costing?
On page 1. You've got the
And I apologize, I didn't have this before
Oh, no,
now.
you're fine. Page 1, you've got cost of issuance at $111,243, and the underwriter's discount $73,980. That's the cost, total cost of issuance.
Which
That's
page
the
is that?
maximum.
Which
Page
page?
1.
This right here. Ms. Burdell.
Got it. So the total underwriter's discount is 0.9% to $73K, and then the cost of issuance is $111,243.
Yes, ma'am.
And 78 cents. And so that does include all of the different agents that we're having. to
Absolutely.
work with.
All the savings, it's all, it will not affect the savings in any way. That's already built into the numbers that we've run.
So Muni Group, your group, Mr. Young's group, and Mr. Dunn's group.
Everybody's covered.
Everybody.
Well, and as I mentioned at the previous meeting too, I'm going to always be conservative in anything I show you, expecting that the reality is going to be better. So I think these numbers are high. We wanted to build in a little bit of cushion just for the unknown, but that would be the ceiling, and I fully anticipate it will be less than that amount.
So this is more along the lines of the worst case scenario than it is, we hope it works out this way.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, Ms. Fisher.
It's for you, Mr. Spears,
Sure.
not for Mr. Young. But you mentioned that we would be able to not ask for an increase on the levy side, correct?
That's correct, yes, ma'am.
And that we would not have to further cut our operations
Budget,
budget.
yes.
How will this enable us, if it will, to recall some of those cuts that we've made? Because they've been very necessary.
Sure.
Cuts, I agree, but they were forced cuts.
Sure.
Because of our financial standing. And if we can in any way go back and provide the level of education with the, I want to say with the personnel that's really required as to what we've been forced to negotiate down to, will this help us get there at all? Can we look at increasing our budget? Not to the extent of saying we have a larger budget, but to the extent of saying we're providing more of an education to our children and to our administrators, giving them what they need to educate our children.
Well, and to answer your question, in getting everything nailed down to where it would be fully funding the debt and reducing the operations levy, that would basically shift us from about 52 mills levied on the operations side to around 49, just under 50, to fully fund the debt. With the surplus collections, when we get to the financials tonight, you'll see we've got about 78. We've collected 100% of this year's need,
last year
and we have
was
about 7,800. And then in addition to that, we have about $247,883 that we'll receive in June that we'll see on the June report. And so that's about $255,693. Now, I'm using this in simple terms just so that we can go through the A's and the B's and the C's. Out of that 255, the part that would be allocated to plugging the hole of where we're not levying more for operations is about $225,009.84, which are for operations and maintenance of District 2016-17 collections, as Ms. Holmes continues to go through the books. Then we also have a case that we've talked about numerous times that'll be settled out probably coming up in September for some back taxes that we're owed for 2013 and part of 2014 before MDA purchased this particular entity. Those amounts equate to about $206,000, and that portion of $206 that will go to operations is $175,782. So basically right there, out of the $513,000 or so that we will need for Dr. Hickman not to make any additional cuts to fully fund the debt and operations, that's about $400,792.84 of that $500,000. Now the board, and I think I heard in your voice, and I think that's good, in the effort of cooperation in trying to make sure Dr. Hickman has what he needs. In speaking with Ms. Holmes, we have about 18%, which is 11% above what the state requires us to have in our fund balance. So it's surplus funds that we could take 150, 250, whatever the board feels that we want to give Dr. Hickman to not only fill the rest of that gap, but to bring back, as you were talking about, TAs, nurses, or whomever it may be,
teachers.
and not make, I think your words were, not make a material change in what we have. And so, that way we fully fund the debt, we fully fund operations, and we're not putting ourselves at a risk of seeing our District Maintenance 1120 fund balance drop significantly to do it. And Dr. Hickman would be able to go and also be able to, fill what he needs to do without any additional cuts going into this year, but then add back what he feels is necessary to put back, restore as we go through this year. And then on top of that, which is still hypothetical, which we cannot know until Ms. Holmes stands up in front of us and tells us, is we've been restored this federal funding or we've been restored this state funding, which may never happen. But if it does, it only makes it that much easier as far as what Dr. Hickman can continue to manage throughout the rest of this year of restoring additional personnel or programs or needs.
I thank you. I realize the numbers for the savings and it averaging out what it is, as you said, per year, as opposed to on the back end is now through the duration. But I just want to be certain that we understand that although, and I'm a taxpayer, I would not want any increase to any taxpayer. I think that the investment that we make or don't make in our children's education and the quality of that delivery is significant. And it's beyond the value of anything that thankfully you guys have given us, but it really is beyond the value of that. I am interested in making sure that we grow people, citizens, who can contribute to our society. And we can only do that if we educate them and empower them and let the intelligence that they do have be realized in the workforce.
That's right, and thank you, Ms. Fisher. And, you know, one of the things that I always just kind of echo is the fact is that, you know, with the surplus that we have been able to do, I mean, that's a long way since 2011 that we've been able to get back to this level while we've had big expenses, you know, 11% over the district mandate of the state mandate of 7%. That gives us a lot of flexibility. It may be sunny outside, but it's raining in the school building, so we can use some of that rainy day fund to make sure that we don't have to do additional cuts and can keep things
Just
moving.
unclear.
And with what we're working toward now, be able to give us a lot more flexibility in the way that we approach our debt and levy and everything going forward. So, did I answer your question in 1,000 words more than you asked for? Okay, thank you. All right. All right. Board, any additional questions for Mr. Moore or Mr. Young regarding the resolution or the preliminary official statement that's being considered? Mr. Sparks, do you have any questions or anything for our council?
No, sir.
Okay.
So, Mr. Spears,
Yes,
I mean,
Ms.
there are,
Burdett.
and I think Mr. Young alluded to it, there are some blanks that are missing they don't have information in it. And so are we able to move forward without having those blanks filled? Do we need to see what those numbers would be in those blanks before we consider this resolution?
Yeah, the resolution authorizes the superintendent and the board president to sign off on any updates to the POS.
And anything that is, as I've done all along, anything that is modified will be communicated to Ms. Velma and automatically uploaded and notified for the board to review as well. And most likely, just as I've done along the way, that will happen before anything is signed. So if there's questions or comments.
Right.
I said before it is signed, I would send it so you could review it and then just send out and ask if there's any questions, or have Velma send out to see if there's any questions and then go proceed from there.
That would be good.
So, I mean, there wouldn't be any jumping the gun on it. So,
I agree with that.
so, all right. Thank you, Ms. Burdett. You have any other questions?
I don't. Thank you both
All right.
for coming.
Dr. Shoemake, any questions or anything? All right. Board, so before us we have our adoption of the resolution to authorize issuance of GO bond refunding bonds and the preliminary official statement and related documents. Board, I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
It has been motioned by Mr. Sparks. Do I have a second?
Second.
Has been seconded by Dr. Shoemake. Any additional discussion? Any discussion, Mr. Sparks?
None.
Okay. All in favor, please signify with a yay. Yay.
Yay.
It is unanimous. Now, thank you both very much for being here tonight. Board, now we move to our next item, which is 7B, which is consideration to approve financial reports. We have our monthly financial statements of the fund balance, cash balance, and budget status report. Next, we have our monthly combined and combining financial statement report. We have our monthly revenue budget report, our monthly expenditure budget report, and then our certification and summary of reconciled bank statements. Board, I need a motion for approval of the financial statements.
So moved.
Has been motioned by Ms. Friedel. Do I have a second? I'll make the second. Is there any discussion about the financial reports? Being no discussion, all in favor, please signify with a yay. Yay.
Yay.
Yay.
It is unanimous. Now we move to item number 6 with the monthly ad valorem tax collection. Just one thing is, I think we just discussed a second ago, if you see the report, and it just logged me out. If you'll notice down at the bottom under this year's collection, we are at 100% as of the last receipt that we received, and actually about $7,810 over our request from last year. And June's amount, which I had mentioned to you, will be posted on our next report is for, let me find it here, $247,883, which we'll see that next week. So that puts us at about $250,000. And Mr. Andrews always tries to hit between $0 and $300,000 a year of a surplus as we move through the year. So that's the only spotlight for this report. Do you have any other questions for Ms. Holmes or anything on the ad valorem request? Now we move to our next item on the agenda. Log back in here, which is the athletic reports. Board, is there any question about the athletic reports? Then we move to the claim. Yes, Ms. Fisher.
Given the fact that we're not going to have the cooperation of Lowndes County School District in terms of having our usual football competitions, how is that going to, what's the negative effect of that? And I realize that we don't, this is not relative to the current report because we don't have anything to revenue that has come in. But how does that look? And I apologize, Ms. Spears, but I meant to address this under the curriculum for the calendar for extracurricular activities. I would like to know what is going to be the financial impact of not having the football competitions or games, and how we're going to be able, given the cuts that we're doing in instruction and teachers, to have those other activities. What kind of gate receipts are we looking at, if any?
Go ahead. Yes.
Mr. Spears, Dr. Hickman, members of the Board of Trustees, for FY18 budget, we are predicting and forecasting a significant reduction in gate receipts. First of all, because our major gate games, I would say, are all away games like Noxubee, I believe West Point, and a few other games that are big money games, Starkville. They are all away this year, so it's a scheduling issue also. We are predicting a significant reduction in our gate receipt. You will see this year, year-to-date gate receipts were like $107,000. That's going to be significantly lower this year. I would venture to say around $30,000 to $40,000 just with football receipts. That's a big drop in what we've seen before. Because of the games that are scheduled, they're not big money games for the district this year. So the district, if we want to sustain our athletic program, the district would need to put in additional monies or they would be limited in their spending this year to accommodate the reduction in gate receipts.
And that's an accurate prediction because they pulled out and we had to change the schedule. The home games that we have are teams that are far away, that don't come with a crowd necessarily, or are traveling hosts, you know. And so we're predicting, she said 30 or 40, if not more, that it's going to be down.
Well, and just one thing I would comment on is, and be more for Mr. Montgomery, is that win all the games and then we host some playoff games and we can fill some of the hole a little bit that way, because I think that would certainly help out bringing crowds in through that way. But I agree with Ms. Fisher. Her comment and sentiment is that hopefully we can resolve some of those issues going forward so that we can have the local play restored. Because those, the New Hope game, I think there was a special last year, not to get off off the side of it, but last year about, a family that had one student that was playing on the Columbus team and another on the New Hope team, so that just, helped the rivalry. But, they made their decision. Football's a tough sport, so, but thank you. So now we move on to the docket. Board, before us, we have our docket. I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
It's been motioned by Ms. Verdell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Has been seconded by Dr. Shoemake. Any discussion of the docket? Being no discussion, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
It is unanimous. Now we go on to the Office of the Superintendent, School Operations, Superintendent Travel. I don't think there was any uploaded or any travel Superintendent has to report on at this point, Board. Then we go to item B, 8B, which is an update on the Master Lease Program. Information only. I think Dr. Hickman may have a couple of comments regarding it.
Yeah. The only delay is that did you want to speak? Okay, the only delay is that we're just waiting for the master lease program to have another investor. But everything else is on track to go as planned.
Okay. And as far as ordering the buses, all that's kind of already...
Yes,
moving.
that's already happened.
Excellent. All right, Board, now before us, we also have under item C, the CMSD Federal Programs Comprehensive Needs Assessment. And for all the different areas there, it's for information only. Is there any questions for Dr. Hickman regarding any of these reports?
The only question that I have that is somewhat pertaining to this is the survey that we conducted in addition to this survey, the climate survey. And I know that I'd asked that we have some sort of strategy presented. The data from that report, if I'm reading it right, is conflicting with what I'm reading from these assessments, so they don't jive. So I'm trying to figure out where the disconnect is happening.
This was done by outside evaluator. So
I get it.
Yeah.
The responses don't jive. And so I would like to understand, really where are we in terms of the climate across our district? Because I'm looking at two different data sets.
One is positive and one is
positive, one is
has
negative.
a lot of more negative aspects of it.
Absolutely.
But I mean, I would say that we're just trying to look for, right now what I have my team working on is we looked at and combed through all the negative aspects of it because we always need to improve.
Right.
Regardless of the consistency of it, it was stated, right? And so that's something that we have to pay attention to.
Right.
And then we're looking at ways that that they conflict. And so the ones that have major conflict, we're just going to put our resources towards the ones where it was less conflicting, right? And then we still apply resources to the ones that had the conflict, but it's just based off need, is what we're going to end up doing. Was that was confusing? Yes, it was like double talk. Okay, so basically, we're looking through them,
Okay.
and we're looking at patterns, and we're
I just
trying
want to make sure that I'm not the only person who saw the disconnect in the two
Right.
data sets, that one is here and the other is here. So
It
how do
is.
we, bring that to a happy medium?
It's like our testing data as humans. Any given time, they
Yeah.
feel one way, and people have, towards the end of the year, towards the beginning of the year, during the summer, all those kind of data, all those time periods factor with humans.
Right.
And so some of it's different. But I think that there were some true concerns. I think I'd rather err on the part where we had issues,
too.
and we don't ignore the issues that people were saying, whether
Right.
they're little or small.
Right.
It just takes a little bit more investigation, and then we need to see, what changes we need to make. But we're not ignoring the data, if that's what you're saying. And we're not celebrating because we have higher data from another data set.
Right.
We're still looking at the areas that are concerned, and we're going to develop a plan for intervening.
That sounds better.
So I just wanted to say that was an amazing dump of information. And like Ms. Verdell, I'm still trying, maybe you're finished wading through it, but I'm still trying to absorb everything that came in, and I appreciate the fact that y'all are doing the same thing. So perhaps at a future meeting, you can sort of give us your analysis of what the strong points are, what the weak points are, and how we're going to work to make things even better.
I agree. I will. I hear your order,
Yeah.
so I will.
I'm going to keep reading it too.
Sometimes you have to read it and read it again to make sure you get it right. All right. Thank you very much for that. Board, we move to the superintendent's recommendations, which is D, under consideration number 1 of staff personnel. And Dr. Hickman, I think there was one under recommendations that are already on the document here. Did you want to spotlight them, or, board, is there any reason you would like for them to highlight who the additions are?
No.
No.
So are we going to take these one at a
No, I
time?
thought we were going to just take it all as one document.
No. All of the items under letter D, under superintendent's recommendations.
There's just one question, I think, on number 2, but most of them we will group together, yes. Instead of several different motions, I was going to group several of them together. But one thing I will say is staff personnel, I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
Would you please state the number we're under?
Yes, it's under the Office of the Superintendent, which is 8.
Roman numeral 8.
Roman numeral 8, letter D, number 1.
Okay.
And I asked for a motion, and who gave me the motion? Ms. Friedel. I'll make the second. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Yes, Ms. Fisher.
I just, excuse me, and I'm looking at recommendations that are pending verification. I think we need to recognize what we're looking at here, the people that we're bringing in, because we're bringing in people with at the A step, 0 years of experience. And when we look at the fact that our children are not up to the national standard, I'll put it gently, and we're bringing in people fresh out of school who have not had experience, who are not certified. Some of them are pending certification. I think we need to recognize what the quality of people we're putting before our children to instruct them. And I'd just like that noted for the record.
Thank you.
May I add a comment?
Yes.
Okay. And duly noted, you're right, as a school district with a higher need, academic need children because of their environmental circumstances and those kind of things, we would prefer to have more of a veteran staff. I think one of the patterns of the districts since I've been here, and so I'm not privy to the information beforehand, but what it looks like is that we are, it takes a lot to educate our children, right? And I think at that level of intensity, people are coming in and they're earning their stripes and they're becoming better teachers, and then they choose to move to a less stressful, less required area, because you cannot come to our district and just come to the classroom and teach and then not stay a little bit longer, not carry the weight of, the emotional toll that you have once you become connected with your children and you see that they're not eating, or that they're coming to school dirty, or that they're coming to school without their hair comb, or they're coming to school and they're expressing things to you that adults shouldn't be, expressing. And so, I don't know how to stop the bleeding in that sense, to stop that, except for, I think, some of the things that you guys charged us with was to work on how to have a healthier culture. And I think that extends out to our community. One of my examples is we have a little girl, and she has brothers, and every time I leave school, every time I leave the district, she's out there playing. 12 o'clock at night, she's out there playing. I've never seen an adult. I've asked her, she said her mother's at work, which her mother's doing a noble thing, she's working. But eventually, well, one, how do you help that child? Because that child has homework, no one's there to help those children. And two, those boys are gonna grow up, they're gonna be bored. If they 24 hours a day, 306 days a year, every year that they're outside playing, that's gonna be bored. Then pretty soon they're gonna, if we don't have after-school activities and those kind of things, they're gonna pick up other things that's gonna catch their attention to play, right? And so, because of that, it's just, we have to look at, and as a board and as a school district, how do we wrap around the whole community around our situation, and then it will start to ease what's going on within the classrooms. But the pattern of what I'm seeing, and I'm sorry for talking, but the pattern of what I'm seeing is that our teachers, they're coming in and they're gun home and they're doing what they're supposed to do, but they get kind of squeezed to the max, and then they need relief. And then they go to another district where they presume is not as stressful, and they're excellent teachers now. We really trained them up. The problem with us is we provided the professional development, we provided that coaching, and now we have to start all over with children that have higher needs. And so Our solution is still invest in professional development. We have to, we remember when I first came, I said, we have to make a one-year teacher look like an 8-year teacher in 1 year. And so, you know, the professional development, when we keep coming to you guys and asking for that support for that training, and at the same time, we're looking at a dual approach. So we provide professional development for our teachers, but then we also, that's why we came to you guys and asked for tutoring that pay for that extra tutoring for our kids, because they need a double dosage. If they have a new teacher that's just now mastering the content, that teacher did teach them, but sometimes those children need a little bit more. And so that's why when we keep coming to you guys, we're not asking for, you know, more shiny nickels and those kind of things, but we're definitely asking for ways that we can increase content knowledge for our students and content knowledge for our adults.
And that's in some of the teachers and everything you're bringing in?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so board, we have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion?
Yes, Mr. President, I do
Yes.
have a question for Dr. Hickman. You were speaking about the bleeding and stopping the bleeding. I know that we've implemented the exit interviews for the teachers that have left the district. Have you guys gotten any feedback at all from any of the teachers?
We did. We do have a lot of feedback from the teachers who are leaving.
Okay, and so you have a contingency plan to address what's being noted in these exit interviews, correct?
Yes, we're also working with our administrators on providing professional development to our principals to better support the needs of the teachers.
Okay. Okay.
Is there any other questions, Mr. Sparks?
No, that'll do it.
Board, is there any other questions on this topic? Being no additional questions, all in favor of approving the recommendations, please signify with a yay. Yay?
Yay.
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 It is unanimous. Now we move to the next consideration to approve revised CMSD administration organizational chart. And I think there's only one question. I think it is that we have only one individual listed, in talking to you, Dr. Hickman, that is in one particular position as far as secretary, and that's the board clerk. And I know there are others that are listed that are not listed. And so I think as far as approving the organizational chart, we should not include Ms. Woodard on this particular chart, and talking to Dr. Hickman as well, just because there are others that aren't noted in that structure. So is that okay with you, board?
So what's the rationale again?
Well, I mean, we have other individuals that are employed basically the same capacity with just a different title, and so they are not listed just as far as them reporting. So in making this final approval, we would not have the board clerk listed on this organizational chart. And also talking to Dr. Hickman, he is also okay with that, because I mean, we have, you know, for example, Ms. Brooks, who is secretary to Dr. Hickman, is not listed on the chart as well. So is it okay to approve it as Dr. Hickman had stated?
Ms. Fisher, I think you said.
Yes, Ms. Fisher.
I'm so sorry. I'm reading, so I may have missed what you said, but did you say the board clerk is not listed on the org chart?
No, it is. She is listed on the chart, but there are other employees that would be at the same level that she is, and so they're not listed. And so instead of her being included on this organizational chart and talking to Dr. Hickman, it would be preferred to not have her included on the chart.
I disagree. She's serving also as the board clerk. And so I think she should be listed in this org chart. I mean, there's a line indicating that she's serving in two capacities under the guidance of Dr. Hickman, but also in functions as the board clerk. So I know there are other employees that are not listed, but right. Those employees not serving the board as well.
No, I understand this, and this is not me coming up with this idea. Let's just be clear about this. So
no, I don't care what's going on with it.
No, I understand. But, you know, that was just kind of the recommendation that was made, and so that's why I'll bring it up, since it is different than what is presented to us. But it's the will of the board as to how you want to approve the organizational chart. So if you want to approve it as is, then I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
And to approve it as is. Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Ms. Friedel. Any additional discussion? All in favor, would please signify for yay. Yay.
Yay.
It is, Mr. Sparks, how do you
Yay.
vote? Yay, it is unanimous. It is approved as presented. Now we go to the next item up for consideration. There we go. Which is, we have the update of the supplements for additional duties. So board, for the supplements, I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
Has been motioned by Ms. Friedel. I'll make the second. Any discussion? Being no discussion, please signify for yay if you're for it. Yay?
Yay.
Yay.
It is unanimous. Now we move to item D4, which is consideration of request to release from employment contract. We have 4 different individuals who have asked for release, and those documents of a request of why they want to be released have been provided. Several are moving out of the area. Dr. Hickman, what is your recommendation on these releases?
And my recommendation is not to release the individuals from their contract.
Okay. So we have Dr. Hickman.
Unless they, no, there wasn't one that fit the criteria. Was there one? I thought there was one.
I think the first one had a...
Yeah. I think there was one that fit the criteria.
Mr. President, you're going to have to single them out. We're going to vote on them separate, that one.
Okay.
It's going to
All
have
right,
to
well,
be drilled
Dr.
down.
Hickman.
And I can't pull it up.
Here, you want the... I've got...
So, Mr. Spears, while they're looking at that, for the other items, I think there was only one item that I had a question on, just me. So if you wanted to take, if the board wanted to take
Right.
them all up, I would just ask that we exclude one
And that's,
item.
that was actually, we got through these first 4. The
Okay.
majority of them we are going to put all as one.
Okay.
And so I was going to ask if anyone had any ones we wanted to take out.
My question would be to, for number 21.
Okay. All right. Dr. Hickman?
I apologize. We did put the one that had issues in executive session.
That's what I figured.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. With the...
So the
yes.
other ones, it's not my recommendation, but it's the board. You know, you guys have the criteria information, but it's not my recommendation that, I recommend that they do not fit the criteria, but it's your guys' choice to look at it to see.
So it's your recommendation that we not release them?
Yes.
Okay, so board, Dr. Hickman's recommendation is to not release. Do I have a motion for approval of his recommendation?
Now we're going to go one by one.
Well, no, all the four here, just to clear up any confusion.
I'm confused.
The only one that would fit the criteria under the new policy is listed in the executive
Right.
session because of the topic. So all the 4 that you have under number 4 do not fit that profile.
Got it.
As far as under the policy. And Dr. Hickman's recommendation is not to be released of those particular 4. And so I need a motion for approval of Dr. Hickman's recommendation.
So moved.
Has been motioned by Ms. Friedel. Do I have a second?
Second.
Has been seconded by Ms. Fisher. Any discussion?
Yeah, just have one quick question. I just want to make sure that no suitable replacement has been obtained for any of the 4 that we're talking about.
Yes, ma'am. No
Okay.
suitable except the one that's in executive session.
Perfect.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, so the motion has been made, the second has been made. Any additional discussion? All in favor, please signify for yay. Yay.
Yay.
Yay.
Yay.
Yay.
It is unanimous. Now we move to item number 5, and that was actually going to lead me to my question to the board. We have item 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. May we all take those as one motion?
I would request that we have one exception. I would like to have item number 17 as a separate vote, please,
Okay.
and discussion.
So basically, we'll take 5 through 16, and then 18 through 20 in this motion. And Mr. Dunn, that is acceptable procedure? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So, board, for all the different contracts, I ask, I need a motion for approval of items, just so we're clear, items 5 through 16, and items 18 through 20.
So moved.
It's been motioned by Ms. Verdell. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Mr. Sparks. Any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor, please signify by yay. Yay.
Yay.
Yay.
Yay.
It is unanimous. Now we go back to item number 17, which is the consideration to approve CMSD 2017-18 homeless procedures. And I need to get to discussion. I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
Has been motioned by Ms. Fisher. I'll make the second. Discussion.
Yes. In looking at the attachment for this subject matter, homeless students, I have one question, and I apologize for not giving this to Dr. Hickman earlier. But I'm sorry, let me get to it. If you look at the attachment that was provided, it states that on page maybe page 4 or 5, that the administration of the responsibilities for a homeless child are relinquished or overseen by some title. I'd just like to know who is behind that title.
You mean the district?
What does the title say?
District Homeless Liaison, is that the one you're talking about?
Say that again?
District Homeless Liaison?
Yes.
I'm sorry. And that's Dr. Aldrich. She's
Okay.
sitting right there.
All right. Okay. I didn't know that she was covered. Thank you.
Okay.
Now I know. Thank you,
All right.
Dr. Aldrich.
Any additional discussion on this matter? Being no discussion, I need a motion. I'm sorry, we've got a motion. All in favor, please say yay. Yay.
Yay. Yay.
Yay.
Yay.
It is unanimous. Now we move to item number 21, which is the consideration to approve athletic training between Columbus High School and Dreyer Athletic Physical Therapy. I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
Has been motioned by Ms. Verdell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Has been seconded by Mr. Sparks. Discussion.
Yes, my question is for Mr. Dunn. In this agreement, there's a reference to the Fair Labor Standards Act. If whoever the trainer is goes over the 40 hours, then the district is to compensate for that. How does that work if we're not compensating them initially, if they're just providing these services? How is it then that we have to come back and pay the overtime for any services rendered?
How is it? Why is it?
Why is it?
It's a matter of negotiation. You know, if the district says they won't do it, then we're going to have to go back to square zero and negotiate that.
And I really don't remember seeing this in the first version of this agreement. I don't. I think if it was there, I would have seen it. That was just my question. I know that's come up in some other organizations that I'm affiliated with, and we've been talking about this clause for about a year now. If the rest of the board is fine with it, I could be okay with it, but that was just an issue for me, that they're providing the services and we're not paying them for any of the services. We're giving them a lot of publicity and marketing and referrals and that sort of thing. But I didn't know why that we would be liable for any overtime. And we're
again-
not determining who they send, and if this is a person who's already reached 35 hours versus somebody who's only reached 15 hours. So that was my only concern.
It's a valid point, it's negotiable, and something that you can say, we're not going to do it, and we'll go back to negotiate it the way you want it.
I don't want to hold this up. Does anybody else see an issue with that? Is everybody else okay with it?
Can we put in the motion, we'll pay them exactly the same rate?
You can motion to approve the
Don't do
contract
that.
with the
Don't do
one
that.
change,
I know what Mr. Spears is
with
referring
the,
to.
with the change that you will not pay
Right.
Right,
overtime.
and that's basically what I was stating, is that we would not pay,
Yeah.
that would,
But amended, in other words, you amend the contract, you approve it amended.
and so I would ask board that we just, if we're gonna take it up tonight, go ahead and make that our,
I'll
what
make that
what
my
is put in the
motion.
minutes, so that there's no question going on, that, hey, we approved it, but we're not paying overtime.
I'll make that my motion. I'll amend my motion to make that my motion.
Okay. So the motion has been amended to approve tonight's contract between CHS and Dreher Athletic Physical Therapy Institute with the one revision that we will not pay for any overtime as noted in their offer or contract. And so that is the revised motion. Is that okay, Mr. Dunn?
Yes, Ms. Verdell, would you please point out that
Yes,
particular?
sir. You will find it under the section, item number 4, compensation.
Item 4.
Compensation, and it would be under letter A, and then number 1 under that.
A and numeral 1.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Page 5. Okay.
And as far as the second that was made, will they need to also?
Mr. Sparks would
Right.
need to amend his second.
Mr. Sparks, will you amend your second to comply with the revised motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it has been revised on the second as well. Board, any additional questions or discussion? Being none, all in favor, please signify with a yay for approval. Yay?
Yay.
Yay.
It is unanimous. Now we move to items 22, 23, and we also added 24, which is the IDA funding application. And so if it's okay in the will of the board, we'll take all three of those together in one motion. Is that okay, board?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is that okay with you, Mr. Sparks?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now so I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
Has been motioned by Ms. Friedel. Do I have a second?
Second.
Has been seconded by Dr. Shoemake. Any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor of the motion, please signify for yay. Yay?
Yay.
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 It is unanimous. Now we move to item 8D, no, 8E, excuse me. And we have three items listed there. One is the CMSD Marketing Plan Goal 4, and I think Dr. Hickman has some comments regarding the marketing plan. Dr. Hickman?
Yeah, I think that was on there for our discussion. What we're still trying to investigate is marketing as far as what we've noticed is from Tupelo, from Starkville. You can see actual media marketing, whether it's on television or on the radio. And so we know that there